This has been great. And so tonight, many of you have your very own District Councilwoman, Raina Park Shaw of the 5th District. So let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 5th District. Thank you so much for making this a priority. And as I did on Saturday, I will thank all of you for your commitment. And we know this is a huge sacrifice, especially this week, because this is your 3rd session. So we appreciate your commitment and dedication to helping us redistrict our city. I do want to take a moment to just ask, there's a couple of other electeds in the room. If you guys will just wave. Thank you very much. I want to acknowledge and thank you all for being here with us today. But with that, I'm here to listen as well. I do have a conflict. Luckily it's virtual, so I'm going to pop into the other room and take this other meeting, but I will watch the tapes. I'm anxious to hear about what you all have to say, especially as it relates to the 5th District. With that, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Let's give our hard-working councilwoman a round of applause. Thank you for serving on our behalf and looking out for us. We're gonna go ahead and walk into our introductions. And just a little heads up about what will guide us is we'll do introductions where commissioners are able to share who they are and how they show up, and maybe even some thoughts, and then we'll move through that. We'll then invite, I believe we have Emily here, who is our, thank you, hi Emily, who serves as one of the attorneys for the city. She's gonna lay out the legal mandates. This is really important to understand and know, because it's important to know that it's not just the 9 of us doing what we want to do, that we're really guided by these legal mandates. And so Emily will walk that through that with us. You also have a handout, a 1-pager that has it in front of you. And so please feel free to reference that. We'll give you a chance to ask any questions about the legal parameters of this task. And then after that, we'll invite our friend Cal to the podium. Everybody needs to give Cal a round of applause. If we can just give him a round. Him and his team do tremendous work in all of these scenarios that you see. And so thank you, Cal, for you and your team's effort. He's gonna walk us through a historical view of redistricting and then get us to where we're at today and really help to demystify the process. That's really important. And then we'll ask you to come up. If you have a comment or what we would like to refer to as considerations, things that you would like the commissioners to consider as we are tasked with this, please fill out this card and I'll be calling out names and we'll be taking notes. And then at the conclusion of that, we'll go through with any final comments from the commissioners just to give you some insight on what is guiding our process or our rationale in this process, okay? So we'll start this way. Commissioner Adams, would you like to start with intro?
Okay, my name is Clinton Adams. I'm a lifelong resident of the city, lifelong resident of the 3rd District, and I represent the 3rd District on this commission. And I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues and making sure that we redraw these lines with a commitment to one person, one vote, and to preserving the rights of minority residents of the city.
Hi, I'm Vicki.
It's on. Is it
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
I'm Vicki Notice. I'm an architect and urban planner in Kansas City. Our consulting firm does a lot of community and urban planning for a lot of places in the metro area as well as Kansas City. I am a former director of city planning and development for Kansas City, Missouri, and so have a little bit of experience of being on part of this task several years ago. And it is complicated, so I'm really glad that as many of you came out as you can, because it's, as you know, it's a 10-year decision and it's not an easy one to make, but so we're really anxious to hear your comments. Thanks.
Hello everyone, my name is Kokithia Hill. I am the CEO of Black KC. It's an education, justice, and advocacy firm. I also am vice chair of the City Planning Commission, so it gives me a great opportunity to see how we marry these two parts of economic development, but also looking at the configuration of our boundaries in our city. I am a lifelong resident of Kansas City and here in the 5th District, so you guys are in my neck of the woods. I live about 6 or 7 minutes from this facility and have been proud to serve you in previous years as your council person. So thank you again for your time, for coming out. This is how we get better in the process. This is how we refine, by listening to what the community has to say and their input. And hopefully at the end of this process in December, we will be delivering maps that you all feel are a part of your feedback and some of the considerations you wanted to see. So again, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Martin T. Rucker II. I am a small business owner of Martin T. Rucker Development. I represent the 2nd District. I live in the Northland, and I've had a great time working with my colleagues through this process so far. A couple of my focuses are equity and inclusion and making sure we're drawing these maps fairly and giving people equal representation in city government throughout the city. Appreciate you coming out tonight. We really appreciate your comments, as it really does help shape our conversation when we go back to our regular meetings that are held on Wednesdays that you can watch on the city's YouTube channel and join in on the Zoom. So please continue to be a part of this process as we go forward, and I look forward to the continued work with my commissioners. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pedro Zamora. I'm a lifelong resident of the Kansas City 4th District, the West Side. I'm the executive director for the Hispanic Economic Development Corporation, which is a community development corporation that services both Missouri and Kansas and looks at economic empowerment for minorities and low to moderate income individuals. As my colleagues have said, that this experience is a
Right against the mask. Yep.
right. Okay. As my colleagues have said, this experience has been a good, cordial experience with each and every one of us, because I think we set the bar straight early on in our first meeting, what our goals and our intentions were. And we'd like to also make it clear that we're in a very short time frame that we would normally be under, and I really respect all their time and commitment to joining me, and your time for joining us this evening, because please understand, we're down to 9 weeks. We've got 4 weeks into this already, and it's important that we do a very transparent navigation of the system, because we want to protect the voter rights.
Sorry about that, Pedro. Good evening, Mike Kellum, representing the 1st District. I, too, am a past director of planning and community development, city planning background for another municipality, but as a Commissioner Noti said, that I've been on the other side of it from a staff perspective, and very thankful to be on this side of it. Currently work for an engineering firm, Midwest-based engineering firm. We have 2 offices in Kansas City where we do planning and engineering services throughout the Midwest, but primarily in the Kansas City metro for me. And thrilled to be part of the process. I echo my commissioner's comments in that the basis of this is to create fair representation in each district across the city from a holistic perspective. Excited to be part of that process and use that as the basis of what we're trying to do. And with that, I will turn it over, but appreciate all of you being here tonight.
Thank you. My name is Reed Day. I'm representing the 6th District at large. I grew up in the Southland and now have lived in a couple different places in the more northern portions of the 6th that we've got here. I'm an attorney in town, and you know, I echo everything that's been set up here. We're trying to figure out the best way that we can draw the maps and an equitable solution for the city, and your comments and feedback as what we've received already has been extremely helpful, and I'm looking forward to hearing some more comments and feedback tonight. So thank you for coming out. It means a lot.
Hello, my name is Chris Llewellyn, and I'm representing the 6th District. I'm a lifelong Kansas Citian. I actually grew up half of my life in the 6th District South near Avila College, about 120th and Warnell. I now reside just down the street in Brookside, where I've spent the second half of my life in that neighborhood, which has kind of toggled between the 4th and the 6th districts based on the redistricting, obviously. I own 3 restaurants in the Brookside Waldo neighborhood. In Waldo, I own Lou's Grill and Bar, as well as the Well Bar Grill and Rooftop. They're located around 75th and Warnell. And then I also own Charlie Hooper's Bar and Grill. Now, I also own it with my brother too, so if he's listening, we both share it. Charlie Hooper's Bar and Grill, which is on 63rd Street in Brookside. I also am a commercial real estate investor that owns a lot of small and medium-sized commercial properties in and around the greater Kansas City area. I'm super excited since we're out south here compared to the other meetings. I really like to see on the new proposed 5th and 6th district boundaries, especially the east boundary around the Hickman Mills area on the community's opinion, as well as potentially the new northern boundary of the 6th district and the southern boundary of the 4th district. But of course, I'm open to listen to everything. Thank you.
So, hello, my name is Stephenie Smith. I have the privilege of serving as chair of this great group of folks, or with these great group of folks, and so excited to do that. I reside in the 1st district, and so it has been really great to hear from all of our neighbors across the city. Grew up in Wyandotte County, and have been able to return back as an adult and raise my family in Missouri. And so shout out to both sides. Also serve as CEO and co-founder of Sophic Solutions. It's a change management firm. We help organizations navigate change through an equity lens. So it is very natural for me to be intently focused on ensuring that we have an equitable process where we're able to slow down and listen. One of the things that my fellow commissioners spoke of, I think it's important to note that what is typically about a 9-month process has been condensed to about a 9-week process. Why? Because this work is influenced and guided by the census. Because we are in the midst of a pandemic, the census had a time extension, which also then delayed the federal government's ability to process it and get it back. But that change in this pandemic did not shift the timeline for when this work has to be completed per charter. And so this has to be voted on within the same calendar year that the census is received, which means that this commission has to give its report and recommendation by the 1st of December. The council persons then have to agree and vote by the end of this year. So this is a very condensed timeline. And so thank you all for your flexibility. And when we put out a call to action for community meetings that were just, you could have maybe 2 weeks to get prepared for them, you all have showed up, and we are really grateful for that. So thank you. Also want to remind everyone that there are several ways for you to stay engaged. I want to acknowledge the 13 or 20 or so folks that are joining us on Zoom. Thank you all so much. I want to also acknowledge that I believe I see Councilwoman Boo that is signed on here. Christy, is that what you see as well? Councilwoman Boo on here. So we want to acknowledge her along with our other neighbors that are on Zoom. For those that are on Zoom, if you have any questions or comments, you can use the Q&A. Or you can drop it in the chat directly to the host and panelists, and I'll be sure, along with our city staff team member, Christy, to make sure that we are reading those. I also want to welcome those that may watch this on YouTube or on the channel 2. That is where every week, this group of volunteers meet every week on Wednesday from 4 to 6. And that has been our commitment so that we can reach that mark. So please join us. You can join us once again via the Zoom link or on YouTube or Channel 2. And we also have a feedback section on the web page. You can drop any of your considerations on there in addition to any other comments that you may have, that we can use that as we continue to synthesize and move forward. I say all that to say that this is not an all-knowing group. As you can hear, there's a wealth of experience and lived experiences, but we are in partnership with you all as neighbors, so we want to hear what you have to say. So with that, Cal, can you take us through no, not you. Emily, can I bring Emily up and you walk us through our legal mandates? I was wondering, Cal, why you were looking at me like that.
I'm Emily Black. I'm an assistant city attorney for the city of Kansas City, and I'm going to real briefly just talk about the general legal responsibilities and obligations when you're talking about redistricting. So starting with the city charter, as the chair already stated, this process has to be completed and passed by city council by December 31st of this year. The requirement of 6 districts with 1 at-large representative and 1 in-district representative is also in the charter, so those things are set going forward. Generally speaking, there's a couple kind of conditions and qualifications, considerations that courts have acknowledged or in statute for the commissioners and then the council members to look at in the redistricting process. The first is 1 person, 1 vote. The general principle that the population of each district must be roughly the same. You all have probably heard a little bit about the 10% rule, which is the leeway that courts may allow, understanding that it would be very difficult to ensure exactly the same percentage in each district. And that's calculated based on the amount the smallest district is below the average and the largest district is above the average added together. That's on a goal of trying to get districts as close as possible. Under state law, the term is actually the same number as may be practicable, but that's kind of the general standard for leeway. If you get outside it, we know that there's a problem. Compact and contiguous is another phrase under state law. It's adjacent and compact, and so that refers to districts being generally geographically together. In Kansas City, we have the weird issue of having some other cities that kind of are holes in our city, and so that makes them look less compact and contiguous on the board, but we generally, I think, say that as long as around that we're still trying to stay as close together, we believe that that's probably the best way to interpret that. Other things that courts have acknowledged are acceptable to look at and good considerations for this process include the retention of neighborhood boundaries, keeping folks that are already organized and work together and to protect that relationship. Precinct boundaries, that's a logistical issue, to not have to be splitting up and redoing voting precincts, and so we generally try to keep precinct boundaries respected. Community cohesion, if there are other significant groups, community groups that similar to a neighborhood may already be organized and represent some of the same values, that we keep those together to allow them that ability to organize. And then the historic borders, understanding that there's logic and helpfulness in trying to stay kind of close to what it was before, that redrawing the map may have its own downfalls if it's just a dramatic change. And then, just double checking myself here, incumbency is also something that you can consider. When there are, in Kansas City for our council members, what would be first term incumbents, if the interest of avoiding putting 2 of those people against each other is also something that is appropriate to consider. When, another thing that is a frequent issue in these cases is just making sure that there's not a violation of the Voting Rights Act. Voting Rights Act has made it unlawful, based on federal law, to create districts such that you disenfranchise a racial or ethnic minority. So this is something that we look at if there is a racial or ethnic minority group that is large enough and contiguous enough that they could be the majority in a district, and they are deprived of the ability to have that majority in a district such that a voting bloc outweighs their voice, that could be a violation of the Voting Rights Act. So that's also something that we are looking to avoid.
Any questions? Any questions about legal? And once again, please reference the handout that could possibly be a guide. Any other considerations, commissioners, that you want to add? Okay, thank you so much, Emily.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kyle Elliott. I manage the city's long-range planning and Preservation Division. In that division, we also do things such as demographics and mapping. So what we're going to do right now is kind of run you through some of the geographies, some of the general practices, some historic things that we've done in the past to kind of help a pretty good baseline of understanding, so that when you're asking questions and you're trying to figure out what's going on, we give you the best understanding of those situations as we can possibly do. The current boundary that we used for council districts was adopted in 2011, in December 8th, so kind of a similar time frame to what we're going to have here. It's going to be the end of the year. As you're looking at all of the maps along the wall and all of the maps everywhere else, you're going to see the pattern of the dark gray over here, and that's basically Kansas City. The areas that make up the center are other communities. As we've mentioned, 6 counties make those up. Or not, sorry, not 6 counties. 6 council districts make those up. 4 counties make up Kansas City. There's also 13 school districts inside of it, and well over 200 neighborhoods. So a whole lot of boundaries that we're trying to respect as we go through the process. As of 2020, our population grew to 508,090 people. That's the largest Kansas City, Missouri has ever been. Before that, it was 459,000. We gained about 10% throughout, and this was one of the few times where all of our districts gained as we went forward. That's something we'll talk about as we go forward to see which districts are a little heavy and which ones ended up being a little light in the process. I'm going to pause on this map right here and kind of talk about it. What this map shows is population dispersion throughout Kansas City from 1940 on a decade basis to the current time period. And each of those dots is 50 people. So as you watch the pattern change, you can tell that in 1940, we were really primarily in Jackson County. And then as the decades went out, we kind of grew out to the suburbs a little bit. The reason we show you this map is to help you understand and help all of us understand how the migration of people, and not just the number of people, have impacted how we draw the lines going forward. So what we're going to do real quick here as well is show you the change in council districts from 1966 forward. So if you'll watch the district colors, that represents the same council district each time. And remembering how the pattern of population grew, you'll see the size of these maps, or the size of these council districts, change too. On the column, or on the table on the left-hand side, shows you the population at the time this was done. The number, just to the right of that, the 79,000 in this case, shows you the optimal size of each district to basically make sure they all were equal, keep within that 10%, or that 10% rule that we talked about. So what you'll want to watch is just how these districts change. One of the questions that we did here throughout this process is, have we ever not changed the districts? And on each of these, you'll see some level of change. You'll also see a change in the population, and that's generally why that occurred. Another quick thing to explain in this map, it follows the boundary of Kansas City at the time of that. So, for example, on this map, kind of hard to see the cursor, there's a portion of it that's shown in white. That simply was not Kansas City as of 1966. There's also a piece of Old Richard-Skibauer on the bottom that wasn't too. So as we flip through the maps, I'll flip all the way to current, and then I'll flip all the way back, just so you can see what you're looking at. So this is 1968, 1970, 1972, until where the districts are getting a little bigger. 1977, we still only have one district that's in our Northland. So Northland, for those of you that may or may not know that, is the portions of Kansas City north of the Missouri River, generally composed of Clay County and Platte County. 1980, 1990. So 1990 was the first time that we had 2 districts representing north of the river. 1999, or 91, sorry, see a pretty big population growth in some of the northern communities. Bigger districts, that means inherently that we're less close together, so we're not as compact. 2001, 2010, and this is our current year as well. I'm going to go backwards just so you guys can see it and just watch the patterns. once again, it's really good just to watch the patterns. You can see how we as a community have kind of spread out to the edges. Once again, this slide just kind of shows what we are working with during this cycle. We're back up to 508,000 people. And basically what that means if you divide it by 6 is we're going to need about 84,600 people in each district. When we did this in 2011, the column that shows up right here, which I know is really relatively tough, shows you how many people we put there then to make up those numbers. Once again, that's the number we're shooting for in each of these districts. This map also shows you the current population in the makeup of those districts. So I'm going to read those out because I know that's hard to read. The first district, once again, should be around 84,000. It's at 92. So they've got a lot more people than they need currently. The second district is around 89,000. Fourth district is also a little big. It's got 90,000. Third district is at 79,000, so they need to gain some people. So when we're changing those boundaries, you're looking to add people to that district. Same with the fifth district, which is at 79, and the same with the sixth district. In addition to just those populations, as our law department suggested, there's other things to consider as you go forward. It's not just people, it's making sure you look at things such as neighborhoods, school districts, and there's several maps out there. I think map 6 on the back talks about representing school districts. General geography, making sure they're the same as well as you go forward. So there's a whole lot of things to consider. And each time you guys ask us something, we're trying to balance those numbers and also trying to respect what you're asking us. The maps that we've kind of taken forward for advanced consideration so far have been separated in the back. That's scenario 4, scenario 7, and scenario 8. On each of these maps, there's a little call out in the upper right-hand corner, and it's basically follows the principles that our law department talked about. It's keeping them in the 10% rule. It's making sure they're following the Voting Rights Act and things like that. So as you're walking around looking at those maps, that's what this one does. On the fourth district, this one does a really good job of keeping within that 10% rule. It's basically 3% different in between there. It's moderately compact, and moderate obviously is a subjective term, but it does a pretty good job of that. It creates a broad district for 5th and 6th as you go forward. It does a pretty good job. It keeps as in the 5th district and the 3rd district, it keeps the Black or African American population at around 52% in the 3rd district and 57% in the 5th district. One of the things that we have tried to accomplish here as well is in the Hispanic vote, trying to not make it compete with the 3rd or the 5th district. This map does not do an exceptionally good job of that, but there are some changes that you could probably do to it to make it match better. Scenario number 7, this one was primarily based on trying to make sure there's strong representation among those districts that are going to represent people of color, hopefully. Minimal change. So one of the things that I didn't mention is on these maps, you'll see a hard blue line in this area. That represents the current boundaries of our council district. So anytime you see a different color on one or the other side of that, that shows you where things have changed. This one shows minimal change. For compactness, 6 is pretty linear again as well, pretty long, but otherwise it's not terrible. When it looks at representation, it does a really good job in the 3rd and 5th districts, maintaining the Black or African American population, and it also puts 23% of the Hispanic population in the 4th district, so it doesn't compete with those as well. The last one that we'll talk about is relatively close to scenario 7. In scenario 8, it once again was anchored on the idea of keeping real strong representation for people of color as you go forward. In that one, it's 54% in the 3rd district, 57% in the 5th district. It also puts around 22% Hispanic population in the 4th district. The 5% rule, and that was about 5%. 10% rule is about 5% as you go forward, so that does allow for some changing. Minimal change as well, and once again, relatively moderately compact. And that's the last one. Question?
All right, so what we want to do is, thank you, Cal. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank all of our communication team members that are making sure that we can be heard. And of course, our timekeeper. Thank you so much. And we'll use that loosely because we do want to make sure that we're able to hear, but able to hear it from everyone. And so once again, we'll go into our comments section. Thank you. Is Beth, you're gonna be able to, thank you. So what we'll ask you to do, I'll call up, and if you just simply raise your hand, Beth will walk the mic over to you. And once again, we are here to listen to what your considerations are. None of this is permanent. There have been no decisions that have been made. And so as you share, we would love to hear it in the terms of what would you like for us to consider. And so up first, Manny.
And we will ask you to come up here for the camera purpose so folks can see you. And everybody who's speaking into the microphone, do not be shy. Get right up close to it. We want your voice to be heard on Zoom and on Channel 2 for folks.
I'll fail at this first. Good evening, everyone. My name is Manny Ibarka. I'm currently a representative of the Kansas City, Missouri School Board, although I'm not representing them today outside of my own sub-district on District 3. I appreciate your all's time and dedication to this. I know this is an arduous and tedious process, so thank you for your dedication. I want to express first my suggestion that you recommend this process go towards a different process where we look towards an all-in-district version of these maps. And I know that is outside of your boundaries, but understand you have the opportunity to recommend that to the mayor and a charter review commission. I say this because I think everyone here has probably called some of their elected officials and not had the best response time because we're representing so many people. And by expanding the opportunity for more representation directly, you'll have greater access to your city and your resources. I think one interesting comment was that we don't have to stick to the traditional 12 seats. There is potential, if we're changing the charter, to look at expanding to even more individuals who are representing you so that you have fewer people that each of those elected officials may represent. Going up to 14 perhaps is an opportunity there. Looking at the process at hand that you all have now, very challenging obviously. I ask that you consider looking at the historic West Side and the historic Northeast communities and making sure that the cultural celebrations of the community that are there stay intact in an area of a singular district, however possible. I know there are collaborative opportunities between the Black and brown communities to make sure that the 4th district can be a diverse community represented by someone, hopefully that could create an opportunity for a Latino individual to run in the future. But those communities are so important, so diverse, so culturally rich that their voices have not been heard in several decades. So with that, I will cede my 1 minute and let you guys get back to it.
Any clarifying questions from commissioners? Okay, thank you. Next up, Byron Townsend. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila. Okay. First, I'd like to thank you guys for doing this tough job. My name's Byron Townsend. I'm presently the president of the Hickman Mill School Board. And what we would like as a school district and a board for look at is that map number 6 and continue to use school districts and take greater consideration of those. For the last 10 years, our district has kind of been trying to get represented by 2 different council people, and it kind of diminishes our natural ability to reach our council people and kind of influence that. So with 6 would be our preference between the way you divide up 5 and 6. Option number 6 would be our preference, but 4, 7, and 8 those are fine. That's about 95% of our district would be in one, one voting block. So, like I said, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. All right, thank you.
Number 6. Any questions from commissioners?
When you are looking at the maps, I know your preference is 6, is that putting the most of Hickman in sub-district 5, or is it council district 6? Do you have a preference between which district?
It will put us in 5. I don't have a preference in which district. You can name it District 12, I don't care. As long as we're in the same district and we have that natural organization, so.
What is the western boundary for the Hickman Middle School District on map number 6?
The western boundary.
Western boundary, that goes way over to, is that like,
It goes all the way over to Cleveland.
Or
for our school district, or
for the council district, look, it goes over to, it looks like that Holmes or something? So you would like that southern boundary to go over to Holmes?
well, we have like a little.
We've had testimony before asking the Blue River, the
Yeah.
dividing line between the 5th and the 6th. So you're asking that to go even further west than that?
No, we just have a little bitty chunk, and according to 6, that little bitty chunk would take care of our complete district.
Okay, well, on my map, on
Yeah.
6, it goes all the way over to, the 5th district will go over to, will go west of the Blue River, go further over, like all the way over to, I think that's Holmes. Is that the boundary of Hickman Mills?
It's not quite over to Holmes, but it's pretty darn close, because where the street starts spinning around.
And just as a clarification, when you're talking about map 6, you're talking about the boundary of 5 and 6 in map 6,
Yes.
correct? There. Thank you.
Yes. Oh. Yes.
You mentioned map 7,
Yes.
favorable one as well?
Yes. Like I said, it will get like, just a rough estimate, like 95% of us in 5.
Thank you.
That was a hit, Mr. Townsend. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Next up, Jenny Walters. Welcome.
Well, I also want to thank you, and I'm from the Northland. I wasn't able to go to the one Monday night because of another meeting, so I'm very glad I came here. I'm in favor of number 7 myself, but I also feel that our districts are too large, and I don't feel that our council people can adequately represent the people in their district as large as they are. So I would like to see either additional districts or more council people per district, whatever would be the best solution for the city. Whether that's more at large or another just in-district person. But I think this is too important of an issue not to consider those alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Walters. Any clarifying questions? All right, thank you. And appreciate those additional recommendations. We're going to keep those into account. Just to be clear, that exceeds what our mandate is, but it can definitely be added into the report. So the request of expanding districts or increasing the number of district seats, we can definitely include that into the report. So thank you. All right, next up, Richard Hernandez. Okay, what about just Richard? Maybe I got the last name wrong. Okay, we'll see if we can come back to him. Teresa Edens. And please get me right with the pronunciation of your name. As a Stephenie, I want to make sure I get. Okay, thank you. Welcome.
since we're timed, I think I'm going to have to leave a little more messages with me. But first and foremost, I would like for you to understand that Hickman Mills, yes, it is a school district, there is a school district there, but Hickman Mills is a community that was annexed by the city in the 60s. That community is much, much older than the school district is. Even though the school district does bear our name, it's because they were proud to be in our community. And we do, those who live in Hickman Mills, think of themselves as a community. And because we are a community, we should be thought of that way, just as other communities, and we don't want our community to remain split between between council districts. Something that you may not be aware of is that there are 2 umbrella groups in South Kansas City that represent neighborhoods and homes associations. They've been around since the 70s and have bylaws laying out their boundaries. One of those is the Southern Communities Coalition, whose eastern boundary is the city limit, and its western boundary is Blue River, because that is the western boundary of Hickman Mills. Center Planning and Development's boundaries begin at Blue River and go west to the state line. Those boundaries have worked well until approximately 10 years ago, when part of Hickman Mills ended up in a different district. Part of Hickman Mills was in Center Planning's area, but their boundary, by their bylaws, can't go over into Hickman Mills. And the same for the Southern Communities Coalition. We had to deal with more than one council district, so it was very difficult for the last 10 years, to get difficult and very complicated to get things done for our district. I would also like to say that demographically and economically, our portion of the 6th district has nothing in common with the rest of the district. Maps are simply lines on paper, and I would challenge each and every one of you to drive Red Ridge Road from Warnell to Hillcrest and try to find a north-south through street. I don't think you're going to have a whole lot of luck. One of them, the first one, has been closed for way over 10 years. Another one, the city saw fit to vacate. But I do give you that challenge. I would also like to say that I heard it mentioned at one of the commission meetings that the number of ELL students in North Kansas City was about the number there that is there. If you take that number, the number of those students as a percentage of the total population of North Kansas City School District, Hickman Mill, and you do the same for Hickman Mills, Hickman Mills is very, very nearly equal to what North Kansas City is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edens. Any clarifying questions? Want a question for you?
So are you asking that the Western District, the boundary between the 5th and the 6th be Blue River? Is that?
Yes, I am, because that is where the community divide comes. And again, we are a community that has a school district within it.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Eden. Next up, Dr. John Carmichael.
Hi, I'm Dr. John Carmichael. I was an educator for 44 years, and I'm Professor Emeritus from University of South Florida. I also have an affiliation with the Hickman Mills Education Foundation, the CAC, and the South Kansas City Alliance. And first, I thank you for your work on this. I know it's difficult, and I know there's so many influences that you have to consider. But I've been an acute observer of public education during my career. And although I've only been here for 3 years, I've paid a great deal of attention to the Hickman Mills School District. And it's been brought to my attention that that district is divided, the school district, in half into District 5, half into District 6. By doing so, the ability of the school district to influence things that would positively affect the neighborhoods and the students and their families have been greatly diminished. If we can get all of the Hickman Mills School District into one district, council district, and that would be District 5, I believe that it would empower the Hickman Mills schools to make the needed improvements. They've been challenged lately, and I know they're working hard, but they need every bit of assistance and encouragement that folks like you can provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions? Thank you, Dr. Carmichael. All right, John Sharp. Welcome, Mr. Sharp.
Thank you very much. I'm John Sharp. I am president of the South Kansas City Alliance, but I'm speaking for myself as an individual. And I want to echo several things that people have said earlier this evening. One, I really appreciate the willingness of this commission to consider including in your recommendations going to an all-district proposal, because it makes it more difficult for members of ethnic minorities to win when they have to try to run at large. And it makes it more difficult for just neighborhood activists, people who've paid the dues, who really do good work, volunteer work in their community. But if you can't raise a lot of money to run at large, you're running in parts of 4 counties, you're sure at a disadvantage. Now, sometimes you can win anyway if your opponent has an inept campaign, particularly. But other than that, it makes it awfully tough. And by only having 6 districts, it makes it tougher to run a door-to-door grassroots campaign, even in the districts, because the districts are so big. So I'm sure glad you're looking at that. I would like to basically echo what Dr. Carmichael said. I'm a member of the Hickman Mills School District area, and we would, right now we're chopped up between the 5th and 6th districts. And it even chops up some of our neighborhoods that are used to working together. And we would greatly appreciate any consideration you can give to putting the entire the entire Hickman Mills School District and our community, because it is a community, in the 5th district. Now, the school district boundaries kind of zigzag like a lot of boundaries do, and there is a little tail of it that goes down toward the Martin City area. But if we could ideally take that western boundary of the 5th district over to Blue River Road, that's a natural dividing area for the community, and it's also a division between the center and Hickman Mills School District, and we would greatly appreciate it. We know that you have an obligation, and one that we approve of and appreciate, in not deleting or decreasing the minority percentage in the 3rd and 5th districts. And so there may have to be some adjustments, but anything you can do to put our entire community, the Hickman Mills community, the Hickman Mills School District, in the 5th district, we would greatly appreciate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Any questions?
I have one, it's not a clarifying question, but I'd like to have John's perspective on it. That is, John, I've been told, and I think we may have heard some testimony, I think I maybe, I got that outside this process, but I've been told that if we go west of 71st Street, west of Highway 71, that it could dilute the vote in the 5th subdistrict. You live out in that area, you represented that area, both as a school board member and a city council person, plus you're familiar with the community. What's your perspective on that?
71 Highway is another dividing area, but I think you can go over to Blue River Road, and as long as you put all of the area in the eastern part of the district in the 5th, I think you still have a healthy African-American majority in the 5th. You've got homes associations like Kirkside and Crossgates, and you've got the president of Kirkside here tonight that are very heavily African-American. And as you go west from 71, areas like Royal Oaks, where Dr. Carmichael lives, and where Alvin Brooks lives in Southern Hills, those areas have very robust African-American populations.
Diverse out there too, right?
Yes, sir. So I don't think there's a significant dilution of African-American voting strength in the 5th, taking it over to Blue River Road. There are some other places you could divide it between Blue River Road and 71 Highway, like Grandview Road, but we would sure appreciate it taking it all the way over to Blue River Road and keeping our community together.
Mr. Sharp, can I ask one more question?
Yes, I can't see who's saying. Oh, I'm sorry.
Vicki.
I'm sorry. I know you. I just didn't know where the sound was coming from.
It's the mask. Last time, there was a big change between the northern boundary of 6 and the southern boundary of 4.
Right.
Which took 4 all the way up to 59th Street.
Right.
And
I mean the 6 all the way up to 59th.
I mean 6 up to 59th, and as I recall, nobody was happy about that. 4 is also getting scrunched to make the difference on to get 85,000 and get it equitable. And so that boundary is going to be affected again. Some suggestions have been to take the plaza out of the 4th and put it in the 6th. Do you guys have any comment about what that might mean?
Well, that's a little ways away from where I live, and but it does strike me as looking just a little odd when you'd have the 6th district going into Cass County, you know, because it does. We have part of Cass County and Martin City, and then in some of these maps that you're looking at, going clear up to Westport, you know, past the plaza, going to Westport, and that does seem like those folks at the far north wouldn't have that many interests in common and that many priorities in common with the people in Martin City and the area around Redbridge. Now, I think, I know you have to gain population in the 6th if you take areas out and put it in the 5th, and one way to do that might be to look at having the eastern boundary of the 6th as you come south, have it run along Truce and not zigzag between Truce and Holmes, because when you take it further west over to Holmes, that certainly does dilute the African-American percentage in 5, because you have a higher Caucasian percentage of people living over there.
I think we looked at that zigzag, and I believe it was along the precincts as the reason why we could not change that from Warren L or Holmes to Truce.
And Doctor, I'd like to really respond to that, because I talked to one of the directors of the election board today, because I'd heard that too. And I talked to Mr. Elliott after the last hearing, and you don't have to follow precinct lines. The precincts are not of equal population. You've got precincts with 50 people in them and 500 people in them. Now, the election board would rather not have to adjust the precinct lines, but they do not have to be of equal population, and they do that quite a bit. Now, I would rather not take out my trash and have to do my own dishes, but since I live by myself, I do. And they would rather not redraw the precinct lines, but they have, and they will, and they can. So I think you should draw the lines where you want the lines and where it would make most sense for the people you represent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel like we should thank you for your service and your brain trust. Thank you for sharing it with us.
And for washing my dishes.
Yeah, for washing your own dishes. Would like to, if we can go ahead and bring Daryl Curls up. And while Daryl Curls joins us, we have 2 comments from our Zoom participants. One from Robert stating, please keep the plaza and Westport together in the same district as they share the same issues commercially and residentially. To separate the two would split Plaza Westport Neighborhood Association into 2 districts. Carol also writes, please don't split Westport from the Plaza. We face the same issues in both, and our neighborhood association spans both commercial and residential areas. Thank you to both Robert and Carol for your comments. Daryl, Mr. Curls?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Daryl Curls. I'm president of Kirkside Homes Association, as Mr. Sharp just indicated. I'm also a former Hickman Mills School Board member and 25th Ward Democratic Committee man. Lived in the district for 35 years. And I'd like to just echo some of the comments that have already been made. But first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for your commitment and your service on this commission. I know it's not easy, difficult work, so keep it up and thank you again. I believe that the Hickman Mills School District, as well as the Hickman Mills community, needs to stay in one contiguous councilmatic district. That looks like that should probably be the 5th district at this particular time, based upon some of those maps that are there. So I would be in favor of keeping the school district and the community in the same district. As one other comment was made, we are not only a school district, but we are a community. Our homes associations work well together. We have our community umbrella groups that works well with our community homes associations. And so with all that being said, we would like to keep that going forward. I believe that probably the boundary, as Mr. Adams questioned, would probably be a good boundary on the western part of the district over the Blue River Road as well. So if we could do that, that would be great. I'd also like to say that, and I know this is out of your purview, but councilmatic districts should just be councilmatic districts as opposed to at-large districts. So if there's any comments or things that you can do to help facilitate that, I think that that ought to be changed as well. With that being said, I'll conclude at this time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Curls, for your time and your service. Thank you. Ann Coleman. Thank you, Ms. Coleman.
Good evening, everyone. And I wanted to thank you for giving us the opportunity to come out and express ourselves this evening. I am the newest member of the Hickman Mills School Board. I've lived in the Hickman Mills since 1993. We've raised our kids there, and I'm proud to be board director. I just want to say, in favor of the Hickman Mills district, if we could stay together and keep us in one, like the 5th district, I think that would help us in what we're trying to get accomplished so much. And I'm in favor of moving the boundaries to the Blue River Road. And I know when I was running for board director, I was just amazed at how it was so spread out, and anything that you guys could do to make it more compact and keep us in the 5th district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Any questions? Shout out to the organization, organizing power of Hickman Mills. Great job. Lakeisha Briggs. Welcome, Ms. Briggs.
All right. First of all, thank you guys for all your hard work and dedication. And thank you, Madam Chair, for explaining why the process is being expedited. So thank you so much. My name is Lakeisha Briggs. I am a former school board member, one of the former school board presidents, and a concerned community member as well. I am here also to echo the request of not only the school district, but the community stakeholders. All of our organizations, South Kansas City Alliance, CAC, the Mills Coalition, all home associations work very closely together. So will hope that you guys strongly consider keeping the district whole, making 5th district strong. The reason why that's important, because first of all, I just want to be completely honest with you. The school district is moving in a very positive direction. And not just the school district, but also the community as a whole. So I think this would really propel the district in a positive direction. And so I just, oh, and I don't even say who I am, a school board member, but I'm also the founder and CEO of Bridge Leadership Academy, which is a learning center for children in South Kansas City. And we would not be in existence without the support of the district and the community. And I do want to thank our councilwoman, Brenda Park-Shaw, for being here as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Briggs, and thank you for your service too. Any questions? Reed, did you have? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Briggs. All right, and last up, and once again, if there are any additional comment cards, please feel free to wave them in the air. They're also out in the foyer so that we can make sure that we can include your comment. Jamie Braden.
I'm gonna try. First of all, as an old teacher, I don't know if I should really put this close, or if you would hear me better if I put it down here. Okay, I'm just asking, because teacher voices carry. I think my biggest concern when I was looking at this was trying to understand some changes I saw concerning the 5th district. I have lived in the 5th district for a good 20-something years. The other half of the time I was in the 3rd district as a kid. So 3rd, 5th, that's it. No place else. When you look on number 4 and you look around 85th and Truce, I need to have a clear understanding. Is that part of 6th property line coming into the 5th? Or is that part of 5th going over to the 6th? So that's about 85th and Truce. When you think about the 85th and Truce, you're looking at the backside of Center High School, where the football field is, which means you'd be going over to those apartments going east that are back over in that area. So if that's 6th coming into 5th, or 5th going into the 6th. And when you go down by the Hillcrest area, I know that's a strange area too, but when you look at the line, it looks like the blue came into the 5th instead of it changed. So at 85th and Truce on number 4, and then at the bottom at the Hillcrest. But then if you go up to 51st on number 4, I'm not through, 51st, 5th went into the 3rd, but then the 3rd came down at 55th. You're gonna take just a part and put 5th into 51st Street area, but you're gonna take a large section of 55th and put it in the 3rd. When you go to 55th, you're gonna take out part of Purcell High School area, but you're gonna put in the brand new almost Martin Luther King Park into the 5th. There's no apartments there. There's no houses there. There's a playground. When you live in the neighborhood, you know what's on the streets.
Ms. Braden, as you share those observations, I want to make sure that we don't misinterpret. It would be helpful if you share what your specific consideration is.
I'm trying to understand, or is it being taken out from the 5th to add that section? Okay, the 51st Street section, I'm asking because there, that went up to purple, went into what was the 3rd district. Right, yeah. But then if you look over at the 55th Street side, the 3rd district came down into the 5th. Yes. So the 3rd would have come down to 55th Street, but 51st Street of the 5th district would go into the 3rd district. But then go look at 75th and Truce, 85th and Truce. Did the 6th come into the 5th?
That's correct.
Which is the back of Center High School. And then if you go down to the bottom and look at Hillcrest, I can't remember what's actually down on that street, but you're taking in, and it might be just how apartment buildings or something like that, but I'm not for sure because I have to think about where that area is at. So you took out, put in, took out, put in. That don't make no sense, especially when you own truth. You don't.
We hear you, but is there a particular consideration?
Yeah, the consideration is that's the 5th district.
So you're
That's
saying
our top. That's an area that is of great concern to the 5th district because of the people who live in that area.
so you're saying you want us to consider keeping it as it is?
As is. It's the same that was on number 7. They just took down at the bottom on map 7. You only took out the Hillcrest area. And then on map 8, you did 85th again and the Hillcrest. I'm just telling you, I know what has worked in the 5th district, and I know how people are really concerned. Secondly, the majority of the people who basically have been in the 5th district are your very senior citizens. They are people whose homes are paid for. They are just enjoying the fact that they can live there now. So they fought too hard, and I'm gonna fight for them because most of them don't do techie stuff. And even though I'm an older person too, I'm good on looking and figuring this out and talking on a microphone. So all I'm saying is 5th district needs to stay as the 5th district. I mean, we worked too hard, and I've known too many people who fought to make sure we could vote in this area. And we have a major high school, middle school, grade school, Southeast, and I'm an alum, and I'm gonna protect my high school. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Braden.
Good on mic.
That's right. All right. Any questions for Ms. Braden?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. Just, first of all, I appreciate you giving us very detailed information to go back and look. And part of this process is iterative, right? We can go back and say, hey, if we were to look at these comments that were raised, how does that change the population? One of the things that I do want to say to you is everyone has expressed, maintaining a strong African-American presence in the 3rd and the 5th was super important to us. And as you've seen, if Kyle will go back to the maps where he talks about what the population currently is and how we need it to grow. So in order for us to grow 3 and protect the African-American voting population, we came into the 5th because there are African-Americans in the 5th. And so that's why you might see some of that change. And the same thing when we start to say, hey, the 5th district has to grow in population size, but we also want to be careful about protecting that as a historical Black voting bloc. But we can take your concerns and definitely look at how we can incorporate that. But I wanted you to know it wasn't about like just taking people out. It was like, hey, how do we keep a strong African-American vote in the 3rd and the 5th and then help support the Latinos having a huge population for them as we start to think about configuration in the 4th. So just so everyone knows, it wasn't to, somehow just cut out neighborhoods and communities.
I just needed to, and I'm stating that because, like I said before, we have a large community of those constituents in the 5th who are over 75. And they will come to the younger 60 group and want to know why this happening and ain't nobody listening to me. Yeah. And I did this, and this. Yes, ma'am, and yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, no, sir, got you. I'm just saying, in order for young people to come into this area, the elderly or the senior citizens, senior elders need to feel that their words are important and that someone is listening to them. And that's all I'm really trying to fight for. Thank you.
We with you. We with you. we walking with you in this. So thank you for articulating that, and thank you, Dr. Hill, because that understanding matters. So as we kind of move into this piece, Dr. Hill kind of started it. No, you're right on time. But for each of the commissioners to be able to walk through and give a little bit more insight about how some of these scenarios have come to be, and any other closing thoughts that you might like to have. So Dr. Hill, did you have more that you want to share?
Again, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate when you guys are giving us boundaries and streets, and even the challenge of driving. So I'm gonna get in my car and I'm gonna take the challenge to drive the community. All of us are Kansas City residents, live here, but we also, pretty much understand our area and need to understand all the other council areas. So I appreciate that. Again, I hope you see that this commission is transparent. We're collaborative. We want the feedback. We want the push. Email us, call us. Let us know how best we can make this process reflective of your community, because that's what really matters in all of this. Thank you again. We've heard several times about, hey, as our city continues to grow, these council districts are becoming huge, and that makes it difficult for voices to be heard and for very competent people who want to serve this community that represent our council to talk to each and every one of you. Even though that's out of our purview, of course, we want to make sure we take that recommendation, because we know that it is when we can amplify your voice and you have representation is when things get done, and when our city truly is a place where everyone feels welcome, inclusive, where they can live, work, and play. So again, thank you for coming out.
I agree with everything Cokesia said.
That's a word. Wait a minute.
I agree, frankly. I think this is really helpful to the commission, because dealing with maps and numbers, in 2 dimensions is one thing. Everybody on this commission and all of you know what's on the ground and the history of it and what impact it has. We're trying to be as fair as possible under our restraints, and we promise you that it's not going to be perfect for everybody, because it's impossible to do that. Every single decision affects another district. So we all have to work together, and hopefully this will come out for the good of Kansas City in the long run, and that we are taking your comments seriously about larger districts and possibly different ways to do at-large candidates, et cetera, because that's what is really affected, so that you guys have equal representatives in each council place. So thank you all for coming, and if you have other issues or questions, just contact us and ask us, and we're happy to help.
Check.
I would just like to thank everyone who came out or watched online at all 3 of the community meetings that we had over the past week. I think you will see by our next versions of drafts of the maps that we did listen to you guys, and that we will make some changes based on a lot of your input given to us. I especially came into this meeting, wanted to know kind of what the Hickman Mills area, where they really wanted that line to be. And I too agree that if we could get it around Blue River, would be ideal. If that is gonna make it, we'll have to talk to Kyle on the facts, on the demographics and the population and stuff, we'll have to see. But I think that clarified today, which I was super excited to hear. I too, also on the online comment about, I can't see Westport and Plaza being in 2 different districts, and that's a problem that we're gonna have to figure out as a commission moving forward. But once again, thank you.
Thank you for coming out, and I wanted to hear, after talking to John Sharp a couple times, I wanted to hear some more from the Hickman Mills School District area and where those lines should be. And it's very helpful to get the comments and the feedback about the history of the redistricting process and how it's affected you and what you see, what you want going forward. So we will do our best to incorporate all those comments into the maps and the different iterations. We have 8, I think, and we're probably going to get to a lot more than that. So we're going to keep working on it. So thank you for coming out, and keep paying attention. Appreciate it.
First off, echo the same comments. Thank you all for your participation. This has been absolutely fantastic over the last several days with the 3 public meetings that we've had. If I could just clarify, where exactly do we need to put the Hickman Mills? I'm just, no, I really appreciate it. That was one of the things I really wanted to get clarity on too, because we had talked about that even before the public meetings. And so it really helped give me some bearings on where we need to be looking in that regard. So thank you very much for those comments today. I will tell you, I've got over 4 pages of notes from each of the meetings. We've had, I believe, over, I think 35 plus speakers throughout, and just very, very, very thoughtful comments. And I'm looking forward to getting back to work. Each one of us have taken every single one of these very serious, as has been said. We've poured over the maps after we get the public comments. We have great notes. So I'm looking forward to getting back to work with the commission and working alongside them, putting together some more scenarios and figuring out how we can get fair representation throughout the city. It is going to be very difficult. I have the utmost confidence in our commission here that we'll be very much together in trying to make sure that we have a fair compromise. So having said that, it's been great to hear from you all, and I appreciate your time tonight, and I'll let Pedro go.
As my fellow commissioners have said, thank you very much for participating. It is a very sensitive topic when we start moving boundaries and communities. And the historical map that Kyle showed us earlier, it just brought me back to what has happened to our city and what's happening to our community and our representation in our community. And we're all committed to make this as less painful as possible and ensure we respect every boundary that we could possibly can. Your comments, again, are very important. Don't stop tonight, because next Wednesday, I believe, we're back on. We're back at it on Channel 2. Those comments and your suggestions, your map ideas, I know where Hickman Mills belongs, so I think that is clear. But bear with us. We have to make some adjustments. The population, the loss in the 6th district and the 5th district do put challenges towards us. So please be patient, and we have a few more weeks to try to get this as close as something everyone can accept for a short period.
I'd just like to echo what everyone else has said, as well as thank John Sharp and everyone who organized the Hickman Mills School District tonight. That was probably the biggest thing that I thought that I was looking forward to hearing tonight, was where exactly the Hickman Mills School District boundaries were and where you all wanted it to be. And so that was very, very clear, and that'll help us going forward. Please continue to comment. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you. I don't think we can ever say thank you enough, so you're going to hear it again. Thank you all so much. Every time we do this, and it would be my hope that we will have another round of community engagements once we are able to take in these considerations. It's just a reminder that people need people. So thank you for standing up and for sharing your perspective in this. It really helps us. Our commitment at the beginning was to move from this culture of perfection to a culture of accountability. So thank you for being a part of that. I think this is also a reminder and exercise, this whole process of equity-centered thinking and compromise. And so your comments help us continue to organize our thoughts in this way. There was a question and comment on Zoom about where the maps, the question from Alicia is there a place on the city's website where we can find the proposed maps? The answer is yes. If you go to kcmo.gov backsplash, I'm tired, y'all. /redistrict, then you will be able to find maps. What are the numbers again, Rucker? 4, 7, and 8, which are what we are noting as the preliminary map. So please feel free to go on the website. We recognize that we have many neighbors that have low to no broadband. We recognize that. That's why we wanted to honor commitment to really get in the community in the midst of this pandemic. And so Please know that we will do our best to try to schedule this again. Once again, our timeline is the 1st of December. So we'll get back at it on the 13th. The 13th will be a big time for us to process and share. And then we're hoping that we'll be able to generate some additional scenarios that we'll then be able to come back to you. So stay tuned for those dates that will come out, and continue to give us feedback. You can join us every Wednesday from 4 to 6 on the 10th floor in City Hall. You are welcome to join us in that space if you do need to be in person, or you can join us on Channel 2 and our YouTube channel. So thank you all again so much. Please know that you're heard, and thank you for being a part of this process. So have a good night.